Hello, this is Bethany Daly with Getting It Pegged and Authentic Knitting Boards, and I'm bringing you today the newest edition in our Stitchology series, where we teach you new loom knitting stitches that you can create on your knitting looms. Today we're going to go over the Twisted Trellis Stitch that involves two peg twists. They're like a cable, but they're really just involving two stitches, so they're really simple to do. Let's get started. Okay, I have cast onto my knitting loom 8 stitches, well actually 10 stitches, so that we have 2 extra ones on either side of the 8. So the marker here, the markers here that you see, those are 8 pegs that are going to be involved with knitting the stitch. Now for this stitch, it's a little bit different in that when you're working it in a panel and when you're working it in the round, they're done just a little bit differently. So first I will go over the panel instructions, the panel knit instructions, and then we will go over working it in the round. And I've just cast on from left to right, and then I've worked just a few rows of foundation base so that we'll have something to create our pattern on. Okay, so for the first row, it is, we're just going to do our extra stitch here first. And then it starts with a purl 1, and a knit 2, and just an FYI, I'm keeping these stitches a little bit looser for this one so that our twists are easier to do. So we had a purl 1, knit 2, and then it's purl 5. Okay, and then our extra stitch, I'll just go ahead and from now on just purl those extra stitches, and then when we work our way back, it's going to be purl 5 again. Here's our extra one. This is row 2, so purl 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we're going to do our first twist, and it is a left twist. So now the easy way to remember how to start out a twist is, if it's a left twist, you're going to start on the left peg. If it's a right twist, we'll start on the right peg. So that's a really simple trick to remember which way you're going to be twisting those stitches. So since this is a left twist 2, we're going to remove the loop from the peg that is the first of our 2 twist pegs. Okay, so you're going to just take this peg on the left and hold it between your fingers, and in the pattern this is your peg 3, and then you're going to take the loop from the peg on the right, which is peg 2 of the pattern, and move it to peg 3. Then you place the loop that you have held in your fingers, which was on the left, and you now place it on the right. So you're just twisting those 2 loops, beginning with the one that is in the direction that you want your line to lean. So now you go ahead and knit those pegs. So that would be knit 2 after we twist it. Now we've just completed our left twist 2, and then it ends in a purl. And we're going to purl our extra peg here. Excellent. Okay, now row 3 actually begins with a right twist right away on peg 1. So I'm going to purl our extra here. Okay, now because it's a right twist, we start on the right peg, which is going to be number 1. Hold that loop in your fingers. Move the peg from the left over 1 to the peg on the right, and then replace the peg that you removed from peg 1 onto peg 2. Now you've just created a left leaning slant to your twist. I'm sorry, a right leaning slant to your twist. And then you're going to knit those 2 stitches. Now right after doing that, we're going to move directly into a left twist 2. So for that's going to be worked over pegs 3 and 4. And we're going to take the loop off of peg 4 because it's on the left, and hold it while we move the loop from peg 3 to peg 4, and then replace the held loop onto peg 3, and then we knit these 2 stitches. And that's the creation of our left twist 2. And then the remainder of the row is purl 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And our extra stitch, just going to purl that. Okay, excellent. Now row 4 is going to be 3 purls plus our extra is done first. Okay, so 1, 2, 3 purl. Okay. And then we go right into another left twist 2. And the cool thing about doing the twists this way, removing them first and then knitting them rather than knitting them in the process of creating the twist, is that they are worked the same no matter which direction you're going. So that makes it a little easier to remember how to work them. Okay, so we did our left cross 2, and then we're going to do 2 purl, and then we're also going to purl peg 1 for our panel knit instructions, and then our extra peg. So that would be actually a purl 3. Now row 5 starts out with a purl 4. So work our extra peg, our foundation peg here, and then we'll purl 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then it's going to be another left twist 2. So we start at the left side of the 2 pegs where we're working our twist. Move the peg to the right over to the left and replace that held peg onto the peg on the right, and then knit off like that. And then we go into a right twist 2. So we'll hold the loop from peg 7, move the loop from peg 8 to peg 7. I'm going to need a cable needle actually to hold my loop for this one. Okay, because it just doesn't want to move over very well. So we're going to just put that on a cable needle, move that peg from peg 7, or the loop from peg 7 onto peg 8, and then we can freely release the loop from peg 8 and move it to peg 7, and then knit those pegs. And then our extra peg is purled. Okie dokie. Now, so then we've just done row 5. So row 6 is a purl 1. So here's purl 1. And then we're going to do another left twist. And knit those twisted stitches. Remember to make them a little looser. Okay, and then it's purl 5. And our extra peg there. All right, so row 7 is another purl 5. So we start at peg 1 through 5 and purl those. One, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then knit 2, and purl 1, and our extra stitch. And row 8 is after our extra stitch, we will start the row with a purl 1 and then another left twist. So we start on the left peg of the 2 twist pegs. There we go. And then knit them. and then it's purl 5 again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and our extra. And row 9 is repeating row 7. So we're going to do our extra stitch and purl 5. Four, 5, knit 2, and purl 1. Row 10 is repeating row 6 and 8 with a purl 1. So here's our extra, and then purl 1 on peg 8. Peg 7 and 6 are a left twist. Make sure that that's a little looser for our next row of twists. And then we finish the row with purl 5. And our extra stitch. Okay, so row 11 starts with a purl 4. One, 2, 3, 4, and then it goes into a right twist 2. So we begin on the right peg to hold that stitch and move the one from the left over and replace it onto the left peg, and then knit them off. And then we go right from that into a left twist. So start with holding the loop from peg 8 on the left, and then moving the loop from peg 7 to peg 8, and the loop from 8 to peg 7, and knit off. There's enough room for our next rows of twists and our extra peg there. Alrighty, row 12, we're going to purl 3, so extra stitch, purl 1, 2, 3, and then it goes right into a right twist. And knit those off. And then we do purl 3. and our extra. Okay, row 13 begins right away with a left twist. So we're going to hold the loop from peg 2, move the one from peg 1 over, and replace the loop, the held loop, onto peg 1, and then knit those off. And then we're going to go directly into a right twist. So we're going to then hold the peg on the right, which is peg, or hold the loop from the peg on the right, which is peg 3, move the loop from peg 4 over. Sometimes it's a little snuggy. Whoop. And replace that loop onto peg 4. Like that. And then knit off. And then we're going to purl 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And our extra foundation stitch. Okay, so row 14 is going to, it begins with a purl 5. So from peg 8 we purl, 7 we purl, peg 6, 5, and 4 we purl. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we do a left twist. So hold the peg, or the loop from peg 3, move the loop from peg 2 over to peg 3, a little snug there, and then replace the held loop to peg 2, knit off. 2 pegs. Good. And then purl 1 on peg 1. And then our extra stitch. Okie dokie. Now we do row 15 is a purl on peg 1. Purl. And then knit 2. And then purl 5. Two, 3, 4, 5, and our extra stitch. And row 16 begins with also a purl 5, one, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then a left twist. So hold the loop from peg 3, move the loop from peg 2 to peg 3, replace the loop that you were holding onto peg 2, knit off those 2 pegs, and then purl, and our extra stitch. All right, now that completes the 16 row pattern repeat that is worked for making a panel knit. And you would just repeat those 8 stitches that we have in our between our markers, or within our markers, and just repeat that for as wide as you want your project to be. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been my pleasure to share with you the twisting trellis stitch in both the panel knit and in the round, and I'm so looking forward to sharing with you the newest stitch for next month. So we'll see you then.